Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into it.
The evolution of the automobile goes in many directions. One of them is the improvement of transmissions. And although automatic transmissions are far from being a new invention, good progress is being made on this front. For many years, designers have been struggling with the problem of jerking of a car equipped with automatic transmission at the moments of gear shifting. The result of their efforts was the introduction of a brake belt into the design of the gearbox. It is now responsible for smoothing out the jerks characteristic of automatic gear ratio change. Brake belts are getting better every year, but they are by no means perfect in terms of reliability. Incorrect adjustment of the belt or breakage due to wear and tear or other causes, and the car will start to annoy the driver again. With its predictable, but this does not make it habitual jolts. But this is not the only disadvantage of such a nuisance, because such behavior reduces the life of the transmission, affecting also the durability of the engine and the car as a whole. Purpose of TL. The main task of the box automatic is to control the speed of rotation of the sun/crown gear, and its main design advantage over its mechanical counterpart is the ability to manipulate speeds through the use of a relatively small set of friction discs. But such a mechanism proved incapable of performing gear ratio shifting without a torque converter, which is a kind of torque converter. It is this torque converter that disconnects the crankshaft of the power unit from the gearbox using a hydraulic clutch when the car is braked with the gear engaged. The torque converter is assisted in its work by a brake belt, which is responsible for briefly blocking the work of the components of the planetary mechanism of the gearbox when shifting gears in the automatic transmission. To put it simply, the main function of the TL is to make the transition to another gear as smooth as possible. This is accomplished by sequential engagement/disengagement of the brake belt and clutch itself. This process is not started arbitrarily, but according to a certain algorithm. The result of such coordinated work of the clutch and TL is the redistribution of torque transmitted from the engine to the gearbox through the planetary mechanism. Thus, the brake belt should be considered a component of the planetary mechanism of the automatic transmission, along with the clutch, friction, and other elements. If the tension of the brake belt is adjusted with errors when engaging the rear and first gears, the car will feel strong jerks, which, if not intervened, will inevitably affect the performance of the transmission and indirectly, the internal combustion engine. That's what the automatic transmission brake belt is for, and that's why its tension should be regularly monitored. Principle of operation of the automatic transmission brake belt. The method of fixation of the planetary gear by the belt is similar in many respects to the mechanism of functioning of the brake shoes. At the moment when TL and the planetary gear is released, the jerk, which is inevitable when an automatic transmission changes gear ratio, is mitigated. It happens due to the fact that as a result of the belt impact on the fixed element of the planetary row, the latter is transferred to the rotation. The direction vector is directed in the direction opposite to the projection of the braking force of the belt itself. And the speed of such interaction is very high, because otherwise shocks would still be felt. One end of the TL is fixed on the box body. The other end is fixed on the servo piston, which is able to move by tensioning or loosening the brake belt. It happens in the following way. When shifting the selector gear, transmission fluid starts to flow into the switching cavity, under the influence of which the piston begins to move. As soon as the TL is clamped, the elements of the planetary row are locked. The mechanism of this process we have described above. This locking lasts exactly as long as it is necessary to smooth out the jerk. After completion of gear shifting, there is a need to unlock the drum of the planetary mechanism. At this moment, the opening of the servo disengagement cavity is opened and the transmission oil entering the cavity lowers its level in the opposite cavity, as a result of which the belt starts to loosen. When the piston takes its initial position under the action of the spring, the TL also enters the completely free state. Read also what you need to know about engine oil viscosity features of the operation of the automatic transmission with a brake tape. TL is a combination of elastic strips made of metal right, characterized by high flexibility and excellent resistance to abrasion and tensile strength. On the outside, a friction coating is applied to the metal, similar to brake pads, to improve the traction properties of the strip. But no matter how strong and wear-resistant the material of the brake mechanism is, as a result of frequent braking it inevitably wears out, and both the friction and metal layers are thinning. Therefore, it is necessary to perform the operation of replacing the TL with certain regularity. When buying a new one, pay attention to the presence of tensioning bolts in the set. It is also desirable to replace them. Structurally, the bolts can be installed both outside the box body and inside, depending on the model of the automatic transmission. The advantage of the internal location can be called the protection of the bolt head from dirt and the destructive effect of moisture. An equally significant advantage of the external location is the possibility of tensioning the belt in order to correct its adjustment, without the need to dismantle the cover. This greatly simplifies the procedure. It should be noted that any work related to repair or maintenance of automatic transmission requires mandatory adjustment of the brake mechanism. However, automakers recommend to perform this operation after changing transmission oil, and even when refilling the fluid. It will be necessary to turn the adjusting bolt in the case when the car starts to jerk noticeably when switching to another gear, if it has not been observed before. Faults related to the brake band. If you notice signs of improper functioning of the braking system of the planetary gear, it is necessary to find out the cause of this phenomenon. Here is a list of the most common failures of the TL, whereof the friction layer. If it is significant, there is a partial blocking of the planetary mechanism, which will be accompanied by jerks when changing the gear ratio, as well as grinding sounds coming from the side of the transmission, or tearing of the piston collar when the piston stops moving, and with it the brake belt does not react to gear changes. The result, noticeable jolts when shifting up/down gears, breakage, mechanical, of the piston rod. As a result, during subsequent operation of the gearbox, rod fragments may penetrate into the moving parts of the transmission, which will lead to their accelerated wear. Such a failure is usually manifested by darkening of transmission oil due to its saturation with tiny particles of metal shavings. If you continue to move, there is a high risk of breakdown of the automatic transmission, which will lead to the need to perform an expensive overhaul. Infrequently, but there is a situation associated with jamming of the belt of moving elements of the transmission. As a rule, such cases are associated with contamination of the first opening cavity of the servo drive, although the cause of jamming can also be mechanical wear of the spring. Such a serious failure can immobilize the machine. At best, it will not be able to move in reverse. Features of TL adjustment. The task of maintaining the automatic box, in particular, the brake mechanism, is to regularly check the value of the gap between the belt and the drum. The gap is adjusted by means of a system of levers that change the distance between the elements of the fixing device. For this purpose, there is an adjusting screw, which in some models of automatic transmission is replaced by a stud. The stud should be tightened in a controlled manner, using a torque tool. The recommended applied force can be found in the user manual. As a rule, the differences depending on the model are not significant in absolute terms. When the screw is tightened to one side or the other, it acts on the stop, changing its spatial position. And already the stop affects the belt fixing mechanism, which, as you know, is fixed on the box body. If the adjustment screw is located on the inside of the transmission, you will have to remove the transmission oil pan. Read also about the torque converter of the automatic transmission. There are variants of automatic transmissions in which the adjustment of the gap value is carried out with the help of rods. In this case, it will be necessary to disassemble the unit and replace the rod with an element of the desired length. Usually car manufacturers offer sets of such rods, in which the length is varied by a certain step, that is, the adjustment process has a discrete character. The clearance should be checked at the time recommended by the manufacturer, or if there is a suspicion of inadequate operation of the braking device. Normally, the automatic transmission oil change procedure requires removal of the oil pan, and this is an excellent opportunity to perform unscheduled clearance diagnostics with correction in case of non-compliance with nominal dimensions. It is not recommended to tension the TL more than necessary, as well as to tighten the adjusting screw with a force greater than recommended. This will accelerate the wear of the automatic transmission units, including the fixing mechanism. What to consider when tensioning the belt yourself. When tightening the adjusting screw with a torque wrench, you may encounter the following problems. No wrench of the required rating is available. The existing wrench has not been tested for a long time, so there are doubts about its accuracy. The torque required for tightening cannot be measured due to subjective reasons. Therefore, it is necessary to know how to perform tightening without using a torque tool. Here is the algorithm of such adjustment. Set the car on a slope with a slight gradient. Lock the wheels with the parking brake. Additionally, place a mechanical stop under one of the wheels and check whether it can hold the vehicle when the handbrake is not tightened. Apply the handbrake again. Place the stop a few centimeters away from the tire. It is advisable to have a partner who will monitor the condition of the car and inform you when it starts to move during the adjustment. Loosen the lock nut with a wrench. This will allow turning the adjusting screw. Tighten the screw until it starts to bite. Remove the car from the handbrake, but so that it does not move. Start to gently loosen the screw until the car moves. Tighten it for a few, 2 to 3, turns. This amount may vary depending on the model of transmission. It should be determined experimentally. If the car is still twitching, tighten the screw one more turn. Perform these iterations until a satisfactory result is obtained. As you can see, nothing complicated, but the labor intensity of the method is many times higher than when using a torque wrench. Of course, about the jewelry accuracy of adjustment here, too, we cannot talk about. Implementation of independent replacement of the brake tape is carried out in the following sequence. Jack up the car, dismantle the wool from the transmission side, remove the battery and also the air filter. If it is waiving access to the box, place a jack under the bottom of the automatic transmission and lift it up. Remove the box mounting cushion. Begin to slowly and carefully lower the transmission, making sure that this procedure is not accompanied by external noises. Unscrew the cover bolts and get access to the fixing mechanism. Unscrew the worn tape and install a new one. When closing the cover, put it on the sealant. Perform all operations in reverse order. Adjust the TL tension using one of the available methods. Check how the car behaves in road conditions. No jolts should be felt regardless of driving mode. If the replaced belt has worn out much faster than it should, it is recommended to start searching for the reasons why this happened. The most common culprit is a malfunctioning servo drive, which causes the planetary mechanism to retard the belt's weakened state. In conclusion, the brake belt is a crucial component of an automatic transmission, playing a vital role in ensuring smooth gear shifts and overall vehicle performance. By engaging and disengaging the transmission's gears, the brake belt helps maintain optimal engine power and efficiency. Understanding its function not only highlights the complexity of automatic transmissions, but also emphasizes the importance of regular maintenance. Keeping an eye on the condition of the brake belt can lead to a more reliable driving experience and potentially save you from costly repairs down the line. Thank you for watching, and be sure to stay informed about your vehicle's needs.